Hello, I'm Nick Hennegan, writer and director, well, not writer actually, adapter, I suppose, of A Christmas Carol with Guy Masterson. I've worked on one-man shows before, most notably my adaptation of Shakespeare's Henry V called Henry V, Lion of England, which I wrote in 1992, would you believe, initially for myself. And then it got taken up by a commercial manager, went to the Edinburgh Festival, and did quite well. And in fact, is still around at henryvplay.com. henryvplay.com is the website for it. Christmas Carol is kind of special to me in that I've been around it since I was a kid in Birmingham. I can't remember if I nicked a copy from the school library, or they might have let me have a version of A Christmas Carol, and it was an adaptation written especially for younger people, and I loved it. So I can't remember how old I was, maybe 10, 9, 10, and so every year I would read the book and make sure I finished the appropriate bit on Christmas Eve. So it's been with me for a long time. The idea for this show was partly inspired by that kind of love of the story, also partly inspired by the fact that I wrote a thing called the London Literary Pub Crawl, which goes out currently every week in Soho and Fitzrovia. And Fitzrovia is an area where Charles Dickens actually lived twice in his life. We only found out fairly recently because they changed the names of the streets. So it felt logical to do something to celebrate Charles Dickens. And indeed, the first London performance of this adaptation is going to be at the Wheatsheaf pub in Rathbone Place in Fitzrovia, which is just around the corner from where Charles Dickens, as I say, lived twice. He lived there first with his family when they came up from the country, and then later on, when he got his first job as a clerk in Berners Street, he moved back there for a short time. So the idea of creating a one-man show is quite difficult. Fortunately, I've got Guy Masterson, who, as an actor, this is, I think, his 11th solo show. He's an award-winning actor. He's won an Olivier Award. He's got stage awards for best acting. He's directed in the West End. So the boy's done good. He's been around a bit. And he's a nice chap, which always helps in theatre. The idea for this really came, we did a reading last year, and Guy, literature to reading, Guy liked the play so much, he said, well, let's perhaps develop it. And when I said I was going to do a theatrical version of it, he was very interested. So I took the adaptation from a Dickens adaptation of his own story, because he wrote it in, 1850-something. Charles Dickens' career was on a bit of a slide. He wasn't doing particularly well, so he knocked out A Christmas Carol in a few short months, I think. It may have been weeks. And it was very popular, of course. But Charles Dickens always wanted to be a bit of an actor. He was always a performer. And in fact, might have been a professional actor, but he missed an audition before he started writing. So it made sense for Charles Dickens to take this play and turn it into a performance piece and go out and do it himself. I mean, author readings is nothing new. He made it more of a performance from what I can gather. So I found a script that he'd sort of adapted for himself, and I've adapted that adaptation, if that makes sense. Guy, as well, of course, as a seasoned solo performer, has also had an input and put things in and put things out. So together we've made it work. God, look at the bags under my eyes. I have to say it's an exhausting process, darlings. I know it's not, I'm not at the coalface, but a one-man show is quite a difficult thing to direct in that you've got generally one director and one actor, and if you're not careful, even when you've got an exceptional actor like Guy, energy can dissipate. We've been doing runs towards the end of the day, which I'm not completely happy with, because again, there are no points in the hour and 20 minutes which it runs as a one actor. We've got a 2-act version as well. So, but for that 1 hour and 20 minutes, there's nowhere to go if you're the actor. It was the same with my Henry V, Lion of England. The actor there has to fight the Battle of Agincourt on his own, or her own, and it's not a comedy. So it's quite a demanding process. It's far more demanding directing a one-person show than it is directing a full cast performance, much more so. And focus, there's nowhere for the actors to sort of rest, and there's really nowhere for the director to rest. You have to kind of be careful about your facial expression. Yeah. And so for this period, it's been good, actually. It's been fun. I'll take some other little videos at the end of each week's rehearsals. I think we missed the first week. We're at the Wheat Sheaf in Fitzrovia, and then thanks to a very nice man, William Burdick Coots, we've been rehearsing at the Riverside Studios. So it's also a similar thing from My Henry V is the fact that I'm using Robbie Williams to do the music. Not that Robbie Williams, but I Robbie Williams. And Rob Williams is a mucker from Birmingham, really. He lives in Cornwall now, but he first got into composing for theatre for My Henry V Lion of England. It was actually his girlfriend at the time who suggested Rob as a musician, because I knew he was a great artist, and he's a great artist and illustrator, Rob. He's hugely skillful. So I kind of knew him as that, and I wanted him to do the poster. And it was his girlfriend who said, why don't you get him to do the music as well? So we had a chat, and Rob's quite good at working to a deadline and also to my slightly surreal musical references, things like, like Land of Hope and Glory, but muddier. And he was able to cope with all that. So Rob's done the music again for this. Unusually, well, not unusually, fortunately, we're going to do an audio version as well. So if you can't get to see the tour, it's touring our Christmas Carol with Guy Masterson's touring, I think, 20 venues this year. And there's probably more to come next year and the year after, and possibly America. If you'd like to know more, then I think I've probably been able to put the address down here. It's www.thechristmascarol.co.uk. And obviously, if you want to get, if you want any more information about the show, if you want to book it, you can book it to your own pub, your own theatre, your own social club, maybe. It's a magical tale. Then you can do so. Because Maverick Theatre, that I set up a few years ago in 1994 with Rob Williams, in fact, is all about access. It's all about demystifying theatre, breaking down all the boundaries and getting people involved. I won't go into that now because that's perhaps for another story. Yeah, it would be great to hear from you. And if you've got any questions about directing or producing, then again, get in touch, probably via mavericktheatre.co.uk or via thechristmascarol.co.uk. I think I've covered everything now, haven't I? Back to rehearsals. Yo ho ho. And bless us all, everyone.